lot of people, just because they start the race, they don't think that they can stop. And I think that's the mistake that so many young people make. If this isn't you, if this doesn't ring true, if this doesn't bring you happiness, then let go of that ring that you wanted to hold on to, because is it really worth it? So that's the lesson too through Julie Glass. And also, she experiences so much loss in the book. And I don't think people talk about that enough either, how very difficult it is when you experience either any kind of a loss. It could be a career loss. It could be someone that you love dearly that's no longer with you. People just expect you to just, wake up the next day and throw yourself into life. That's explored in the book as well.
Hello, welcome back. This is Andreea Parc.
And Alexa Dumitru.
And this is Alive.Again podcast, a podcast where attorneys and other professionals meet to discuss real life challenges and how our decisions shaped our journeys. Our guest today spent her career in the fashion district of New York during the birth of denim as a cultural phenomenon. Showrooms, Rivalries, and ad campaigns and Studio 54 nights, all of it. She turned that world into fiction with her debut novel, Denim Wars. After decades in fashion, she made an unexpected pivot into real estate, helping people step into their next chapter with clarity. Please welcome Barbara Davis. Thank you so much
thank you
for being here with us.
So pleased to be with you both. Thank you.
Well, I met you at the Three Tomatoes annual meeting.
Yes.
And the summit. And we're both authors. And I was impressed about your book because, as we know, Alexa is a fashion designer. And I wanted to discuss with you and see your side of the story, because we have our side of the story in the family about fashion, but you with so many years into it, we would love to have a discussion with you.
This book has lived inside my head for so long. I mean, it was late 1970s, early 1980s when this whole explosion happened, when denim went from farm wear, workwear. I mean, farmers were wearing overalls, 14-ounce, 16-ounce denim, to the height of fashion because of designers like Gloria Vanderbilt, Calvin Klein, Sassoon Jeans, and many, many others. So I was lucky enough in my 20s to be thrown into the middle of it because Sheryl Sandberg, I think, says it best. If option A doesn't work out, you have to beat the SHIT out of option B. So fashion was definitely my option B, because option A was I wanted to be Barbara Walters. She was my idol. Oh my God. I knew right out of college I was going to call her, she was going to hire me, and I was going to work for Barbara Walters. But if you read my book, you'll see there's a lot of twists and turns, and unfortunately I had to leave Seton Hall University. Didn't know what I was going to do. Picked up a copy of Women's Wear Daily. In the back of Women's Wear Daily, they used to post all the jobs. And Puritan Dress Company, which was this huge, huge company, was looking for a fitting model. And at the time, my measurements fit as far as height, weight, and specifications. So I remember getting on a bus, going to Port Authority for the very first time, being so afraid of it all. I was wearing a turquoise polyester jumpsuit, which was the height of fashion at the time. Got lost, almost missed my interview. And that's how the whole thing started. That's how I got thrown into the middle of Denim Wars. A young girl, navigating her way through, trying to figure out her next steps because I was pedaling as fast as I possibly could to keep up with it all. So that's how Denim Wars starts. That's the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
I have a question, and it might be a little soon in the discussion, but it's just fresh in my mind because I've just seen it. Chanel is doing a lot as of last year and this year. They've been doing a lot of work with replicating the look of denim without using any denim.
Right.
So last year they did the silk woven specifically to look like a pair of jeans, and they were silk pants. And then this year, they've done the beads
Yes.
to look like pants. What is your opinion on that?
Well, I think both are great. I think denim is here forever. It's been with us since Levi first put it on a pair of farmers, and since Gloria Vanderbilt slapped a swan on the back. Paul Guez, who started Sassoon Jeans, his story alone is a movie. It's incredible. It's all in the book. So I think both are important. I think fashion always has to reinvent itself. That's what fashion is. But I think we also need the foundation. So I think that both are great. I would definitely invest in a pair of both. So I would recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, I love the idea of making something so standard and so loved and so, part of
Mhm.
everyday life and making it into something totally
I
different.
agree. I think
Yeah.
reinvention is all about fashion.
Yeah.
I think that's really, if I
It's
had to
about life.
describe it in one word, it would be reinvention
Yeah.
and always staying relevant. That's
Yeah.
very hard to do as well.
Yeah. So, sorry, my question was a
Oh,
little
no, that's great.
No,
Good question.
no.
skipping too far ahead.
No. And what I wanted to ask you, so you've been working 70s, 80s,
Mhm.
early 90s, and what happened now that you wanted all of the sudden to have this into a book? Is there a specific
Oh,
moment
yeah.
when you said,
I'll
this
tell you.
has to
Yes.
go into a book?
Well, I'll tell you, my father, I wish he was here today because I was always a writer. Even as a little girl, I would stay in my room. I'd think of stories. And I remember having orange construction paper and I'd use that for my covers because I thought that was going to be so cool, and that was going to be my trademark, my orange construction paper covers. And I think one of my first stories was the Arizona State trip. So I always wrote. It was really my joy. And I remember my mom used to say, "Don't you want to go play outside?" I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'm real," because I loved my characters more than I loved real life. So I think that's always been behind my writing is to invent these amazing characters that people can relate to. So I guess what took me so long is life got in the way. I went from wanting to be Barbara Walters, wanting to be a writer, wanting to be a journalist, wanting to interview people, to having to get a job. And that never stopped, always having to make money, always having to support myself. So it's very hard to fit writing in when you're in the middle of it all. And then COVID happened. I had my own business for 30 years. My lease was up. I was owned my own fashion business for years. And I had to make that big decision. Do I go forward? Do I stop? Do I take a breath? Because, I haven't stopped pedaling all these years. And I just woke up one day and I said, I just don't want to sign this lease. I think you have a gut feeling. And someone that I really admired once said to me, if you're not sure what to do, you do nothing. And so I did nothing for a couple years, even though the thought was in my head to stop. But then I just knew. I think you just know. So I stopped and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? So I got my real estate license and I've been enjoying that for 5 years. But real estate is very funny because sometimes you're extremely busy and sometimes there's nothing. So I decided, I saw it, in fact, on the back of Denim Wars. My granddaughter bedazzled this for me. Didn't you do a great job?
So cute.
But on the back of it is the quote that started the whole thing. And it's by Flora Rita Schreiber, the author of Sybil. And she says, you're never ready for what you have to do. You just do it. That makes you ready. I read that. And that day I started writing the book. So that's what started it all.
So why not a memoir? And why did you write it as fiction?
2 reasons. I didn't do a memoir because these people that I was lucky enough to know. When you're young, you don't realize what you're doing. You just wake up and you're doing it. It's only now when I look back that I realize what these people accomplished, that they took nothing and made it into this meteoric explosion of fashion. And no one's told their story. And the reason I did it as a fiction is because I honestly feel that if you're going to use someone's real name, even though it's really obvious in the book who these characters are, you owe them the truth of who they are. They need to sign off. If you're going to use their name and you're going to talk about them and you're going to tell their story, then they have to be part of it. And I didn't want the book to take 10 years because, how do I get involved with these people again? So that's why I made it fiction. And I also wanted it to not only be a story about 3 rival denim companies that were all competing for first place, I also wanted it to be about the main character, Julie Class, and how she, like all of us when we're young, we think we want something. And if you're lucky enough to go after it, and if you're lucky enough to almost grab that brass ring of getting it, and you could sit back and you could say, I'm not sure this is what I want. I think that's a big lesson for people. A lot of people, just because they start the race, they don't think that they can stop. And I think that's the mistake that so many young people make. If this isn't you, if this doesn't ring true, if this doesn't bring you happiness, then let go of that ring that you wanted to hold on to, because is it really worth it? So that's the lesson too, through Julie Glass. And also, she experiences so much loss in the book, and I don't think people talk about that enough either, how very difficult it is when you experience either any kind of a loss. It could be a career loss, it could be someone that you love dearly that's no longer with you. People just expect you to just, wake up the next day and throw yourself into life. That's explored in the book as well. So there's a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. It's really my love letter to the people that I never had a chance to say thank you to because I was too young to realize what a gift they were. And also to my parents who gave it their all, truly their all in this life. And so many people that I'm hoping can read the book and get inspiration and not give up.
What did all these years taught you that would have been helpful to know back then?
Oh, that nobody's really who they are. Nobody is really who they think. You think that these people are just someone that you could never be. And I think believing in yourself, knowing that, hey, why not me? Who are they? Why not me? I think people are intimidated by trying to take a step out of their safety zone. And I think if they could just be given a little push and a little reassurance, you could get there. I mean, it might not be exactly where you think you're going to land, but okay, so you try for the moon and you get the stars. That's not so bad. But some people are so afraid of even trying for the stars, for trying for anything, because they don't think that they can do it. They think other people can do it, but they cannot. And I hope that the book, tells them that, give it a try. What do you have to lose? Try it.
Yeah. We're looking at idols as gods.
Yes.
Not realizing that they're human as well.
That's right. That's right.
With
Absolutely.
emotions, and they're going through tough times as well.
Yeah.
They're just these machines that, as you said, wake up in the morning and, the Duracell bunny.
Absolutely.
Keep going.
We're all in this together, and we take turns with all of this stuff. And I think you just have to share it, because some people think, I'm all alone in this. No one has ever gone through this. That's really, what haven't we all gone through together? You just take turns with different things.
There are universal emotions that we all go through.
Definitely. It's just, how far are people willing to go to achieve their dreams without, risking everything? Like, what are you willing to risk? Some people's ego get in the way because, maybe someone will say something negative about them. That never really bothered me. I just kind of push that aside. If I have something that I want to do, I just try to do it. That's always just been who I have been. And I just think it hasn't failed me yet. So far, so good.
Of course, we all know denim, right? And the earthquake that it created.
Oh, yes.
What do you think it was the real war behind it?
An ego. Because there really was enough room for everybody to have their fair share. I mean, the industry is huge. There's so many people, but everyone wanted to be first. Everyone wanted to have the market share. Everyone wanted to have the biggest shop in Bloomingdale's. It was all competition. And some people went far beyond just competition. And the book explores that as far as the different stories and what some people did to one another, which is truly unbelievable. But they all got there in their own way. which I think is quite remarkable, coming from very different places. So I think the biggest war was that they just didn't know when to put the guns down. They made it. Put your gun down. You did it. Share it now. So I think if anything, I hope that, that's changed a little bit in the industry. I don't know, because I'm really kind of out of wholesale at this point in my life. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely enough market share. I don't know why the competition had to be so fierce, but that's ego. That's what the business is all about, is taking home that number one spot.
And what do you think the key was to have for denim to be around? I mean, denim never goes out of style.
No, it doesn't. It's incredible.
What do you
You
think
know,
the key was?
I don't really know what the key is, except for the fact that I think women went from, before this all happened, if you think about it, I mean, women dressed like Donna Reed with the house dresses, apron, vacuuming, high heels. It was that sort of look that was pushed on women. Then all of a sudden, Gloria Vanderbilt came. Well, it really started in France, and then it worked its way into America because everybody ran out of denim. The only people that were producing denim was America. That's why Paul Guez, who started Sassoon, came to America, because there was no more denim to be had in France. So that's a whole nother story. I explore a little bit in the book. But I think women were so excited about the freedom that gave them, that it really was this whole transformation of women finding their voice in their room and having a seat at the table. And denim was just sort of started it all. It was a status symbol. And then, especially with the logo, I mean, Gloria Vanderbilt, the big thing for women with Gloria Vanderbilt is how many colors they owned. So it was a whole, someone invented something new and women just loved it. And I think that's just really what started the whole thing. And it hasn't stopped, which is truly remarkable.
Wear jeans every day?
Yeah, I do too. I think I will until if God blesses me, until my 90s, I will own a pair of denim jeans, definitely.
Yeah, fashion statement.
Fashion statement, definitely.
Studio 54 appears in your book. And funny enough, so I've been in the US for almost 30 years. And the first time I went to Studio 54 was last week when we went to a Rocky Horror show.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. And what I want to ask you is, we all know Studio 54, but from your perspective, what did Studio 54 do to people and especially ambition?
Well, it was a whole line of who's who. It really created only celebrities were allowed, and if celebrities would grab a hold of someone and let them in, that was a really big deal. So it really created a space for people that were all at the same place as far as professional, I would say professional elitism, for lack of a better word, to all get together, that were all in the same playing field and have a space where they could talk to one another and not be looked upon as idols, as you said before, because they were all cut from the same cloth. So it was their place where they could go, relax, talk. A lot of business deals happened at the tables of Studio 54. In fact, David Rosaire in the book, who's Carl Rosen, who owned Puritan Dress Company in real life, he sat across from Calvin Klein at Studio 54 and asked to buy the licensee to produce Calvin Klein jeans. In the middle of Studio 54, over a handshake, that's what started it all. So business situations like that were done all of the time. And unfortunately, too, it got a little crazy. I mean, drugs were a big, big deal back then. I think a lot of people lost deals because of it. But that was part of the whole culture as well. Cocaine just was everywhere, in the showrooms at Studio 54, in the bathrooms. It was everywhere, unfortunately. And it really played a big role as well, as far as I think what fueled some of the wars, because when people are not in their right mind, I think they make business decisions that really don't work well for anyone. But Studio 54, again, was this incredible place. I don't think anyone's ever replicated, what happened there and who they were, who it was. And just when you ask any baby boomer that was in New York, they all have a story. They all have a story of Studio 54. So that alone could be its own book. So yeah, I think it was quite remarkable. There was
Yeah.
nothing else like it at the time, and I don't think there's been anything like it since then.
Yeah. We arrived early at the show, and I was looking around and I was thinking
If these walls
of
could
These walls
talk,
could
right?
talk, yeah.
exactly.
Yes, really incredible.
We were
Yeah,
looking at the ceiling because the ceiling is still a little like the ceiling is not properly cleaned
yeah,
probably since then. And we were thinking like all of that smoke,
yes, yeah,
who did it come from?
yeah,
Like all of these little
exactly.
things that you would
All the
never.
And all the dreams, right? That happen.
Yeah.
One of my dreams is to produce a play. I have all these ideas at Studio 54. So doing Denim Wars at Studio 54, I think would be remarkable.
That would be
Yeah, wouldn't
amazing.
that be so much fun?
Yes.
And have a narrator do it almost like a uh, kind of my town type of thing where there's a
Uh-huh.
narrator and then you have the story unfolding and everyone's sitting at tables and having it all inspired by 1970s and having all rock music from the 1970s, rock and roll, 1980s. So yeah, that's my dream for Studio 54. So
That
I
would be
think everyone
amazing.
has a dream related to that place. It's truly incredible.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wish you could go back, and be invisible and take it all in again because it was too much to take in for only one time. So, yeah, that would be fun to be able to do that, be a time traveler and go back a little bit and just explore all the stories that happened there.
Talking about that, we all know that 70s and 80s were crazy and chaotic and brutal in the same time. Writing the book, what you refused from all of those things to clean out, and you wrote it exactly as they were.
Well, believe me, there's a lot more that I wanted to put in, but I wanted to keep it so that people wouldn't ban it
Decent.
from the shelves. Yes. I really didn't. I tried to relay the story and describe the characters through my eyes. And so really there wasn't a lot of cleaning out to do because I was approaching it as a 20-year-old. So what was so much fun for me in writing the book is I became that age again. I was there again. It became real for me again. And I'm sure I missed a lot of what was actually happening because I was so naive. I mean, I was thrown into this. I was in my 20s. I was this young Catholic girl from Wayne, New Jersey, never even having, I worked at Carvel before this job. So, it was quite the leap. So, I think through my eyes, there wasn't a lot of cleaning up because I thought that these people were just, I learned so much from
Angels.
them. They were. No, they weren't angels. I knew enough that they weren't angels. But I didn't realize the backstories then because I wasn't privy to that, at that age. So, but I did learn at the end what was really going on, and the book kind of, outlines that. Yeah. So I started off thinking one thing, but then learning as I went along and coming away from it very different than how I started.
And how do you think the fashion landscape and the whole job market has changed between then and now? Because now,
Yeah.
talking with my students, it is a disaster. I
Yeah.
mean, it is so difficult to find a job, and
Yeah.
there's so many different types of jobs, and
That's why I wanted to write the book because that time period will never happen again. The time period where domestic production was done in the United States. It was done in El Paso, Texas. That's where a lot of the denim factories were. There were back rooms with pattern makers from all different countries and all different cultures coming together. There were people that cut patterns by hand. There were jobbers that would come in with buttons and notions and different color threads and meet with designers in back rooms. That doesn't happen anymore. Everything is sourced out. Everything is usually done in another country because of the fact that it's much more reasonably priced. And you lose a lot of I think, the personality of a garment. Everything seems to be a little homogenized. Where back then, if a designer was working right next to the production person, she would come in and they'd have a conversation and she'd say, instead of this pleat, let's do it this way. Instead of this button, I really like this button. Let's use a wood button instead of a mother of pearl button. Conversations were had. And just like anything today, I think that's lost. Everything's done, by computer. There's no one-on-one. There's no human interaction. And I think when that happens, no matter what business you're in, I think you lose a little bit of something. And I think, to your point, it's very hard for young people to break into the fashion industry. I think the best advice I would give them, whatever industry, whatever job title you're looking for, start a couple of job titles beneath that. Work for a company that you want to learn from. Don't think that you know it all. Don't think that you could come in and start your own company in your 20s, because you have so much to learn. You truly do. And you're doing yourself a disservice not to do that, because there are people that you learn from in this life about what to do and what not to do, equally as important. So I think, to your point, a lot is lost because that time doesn't exist anymore. But that's not to say that, you can't go backwards with anything. So you have to recreate your life with a forward point of view. And I think it can be done. You just need to be a little bit more creative, I think.
Yeah, my best advice to them is always start in a smaller brand. Like,
Yes.
intern with a small designer to see really how everything works.
Yes. Good
And
advice.
yeah, because that's how I learned also. And I think that seeing, even though it's not on, Calvin Klein scale or,
Mhm.
Levi's scale, you still see a little bit of what goes into a brand and into a business, which you never would have known on your own.
I started as a fitting model. So I was in the back room watching the production people. I had to go out into the showroom to show the buyers the garment. So I listened to those conversations. I was privy to meetings with doors opening that I was always sort of hanging out, kind of trying to get an idea of what was going on and learning. You just have to learn. You have to place yourself in a situation where you're learning. You have to be a student. And that's really what it boils down to. You have to be okay to be a student.
Yeah, and now, especially in the school that I teach at, so in a program, you take 9 classes, and all of the classes we have 3 construction classes. We have one that teaches Browseware, which is a software for creating patterns. We have textile classes, we have color classes. So all of our students get a little bit of everything, which I think is kind of the key, because then you can boil it down and say, well, I really liked the color aspect of fashion, and I can now go and research about what jobs can I get in that market, where I can look at, trend forecasting and color predictions and Pantone and whatever. So I think it's really important to get a little bit of everything.
And even with that said, you think you know what you want until you get into it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden other things open up and you go, oh, that sounds interesting. Let me try that. It's all about trying, throwing your hat in the ring. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. Especially with fashion, because again, especially now, it's such a wide, there are people with jobs that you have no idea. Like, there are people who their only job is to set up a window display in Bloomingdale's.
Yes, absolutely.
You can really do anything in this business.
Yes. And you can create something too.
Right.
That isn't around, which I think that's why fashion is so incredible, because you do have this blank piece of paper and it's up to you to write the script.
Correct.
It's not like you're going into a corporate America where, you have to play by the rules.
Right.
There's a lot of things that you can do in fashion, which keeps it exciting, especially for young people.
Yeah.
I think it will always be something that's going to attract very creative minds that maybe, before that, it's hard to have a creative mind fit into our school system, right? Because school is really all about memorization. Whoever memorizes best gets the good grades. And I'm not saying that's not important because you need that as well. But if you have a creative mind, it's really hard to pigeonhole that into our school system.
Yeah.
So I think with fashion, that just all of a sudden people that have kind of not been acknowledged in life because of schools all of a sudden have this opportunity to bloom and right you can
I was
relate.
terrible at school.
Look at what you're doing now. It's
And now
incredible.
I'm a pattern
I
maker
love
who
that
does geometry and math all day.
because you love it.
I love it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's exciting. I'm happy for
Thank you.
you. It's wonderful.
And now recently, I think there's a big shift to going back to the basics.
Yes.
And now I think it's so much more personalized and people appreciate physical touch, right? Physical pattern.
Absolutely.
They
Yes.
appreciate the physical touch of every garment is a little bit different because it was made by a person, and you can see the story behind the way that this garment was made. And they appreciate having a garment that's different from someone else, and nobody else is ever going to have that garment. And I think that's a really nice shift that's happening now where people are they've seen the AI, they've seen it doesn't work, and now they're coming back to the basics. And I think
Yes.
that's really interesting to talk about fashion in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, well, I hope that happens. It's very hard bottom line.
Yeah.
Don't forget it's a business.
Yeah.
So you need to be profitable. And that's why I think it has kind of veered off to that direction. But let's hope it comes back a little bit. Let's hope it goes into the middle. That would be a nice compromise.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting with attorneys as well. So I was a practicing attorney. Now I work with attorneys. We learn the law in law school, but we don't learn how to run a business.
Yes, true.
And with any profession is the same.
Same
You
as
learn,
Yeah.
in fashion, you know how to produce a garment, but how do you sell it? How do you
Right.
make a business out of this?
Well, that could be a business for someone right there.
Yeah.
That would be a
Sold
great
it.
business because it's just like writing a book. You write the book, you have the book, you're so excited about the book. Now, how do you get the book out there? What's the business of the book? So that's true with everything. It's just believing in next steps, a lot of trial and error and just working hard. But you're right. I mean, you graduate and it's like, right now, how do I make this work? What's the business of the business? So it's a good point.
So people would buy your book and would read the book, couldn't put it out until 2 a.m. What do you expect the reader to get out of reading this book?
Oh my goodness, is that they're not in this alone, that they have a safe place to land, that sometimes what you start out with isn't what you end up with, and it's okay, and sometimes it's even better. Not to give up, that life is just hard, and you just have to know that it's hard, and you have to just pick yourself up and start again. So I hope I hope they hug it. I hope that they relate to the characters. I hope they take Julie with them because Julie is a very special person. And I just want them to have a friend named Julie Glass and that she understands and she's with them and she's gone through a journey and that you don't give up on yourself and you just keep going. That's what I hope they take from the book.
It's wonderful. And now that we're approaching the end, it's that one question that I ask every guest, and that is, beyond your responsibilities and everyday life, what is one thing that makes you feel more alive?
I think my faith makes me feel alive. I've gone through a lot personally in my life. And if it wasn't for that, I don't think I'd be the person that I am today. And I think it's realizing that you have your family, you have your friends, but you're really in this alone, aren't you? I mean, you really just have yourself to pick yourself up. You love to share the good times with people, but the bad times, it's nice when you have a hug from someone. But I think I have realized during my worst times, the hug that I've received is from God. And he or she is the one that has lifted me up. And I'm very thankful for that. And I am the person that I am because of my faith, and I'm very proud of it.
I wrote an article, actually this week it was published. It's a gentleman who has a platform that's called Elevator Pitch for God.
I love that.
And there are people from all walks of life that write an essay under 500 words about their connection with the higher power, whatever. It's
Whatever
not
that
about
is for them.
religion.
Yes.
I found it super interesting to read so many of the essays, and my essay is called The Reach, because it's when the ceiling is falling and we're down there and
Yes.
we reach that higher power, that God is there.
Yes, but the hard thing is raising your hand for the reach, right? Because most people sit on their hands. So it's to help people raise their hand for the reach. Really, if you think about it, right? I love that. I'd love to read that. That sounds wonderful. No, really, it sounds great.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
what I believe in. So, yeah, we're very aligned that way.
It is.
Maybe that's why we
It is.
connected.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and we're all one. Yeah,
Yes,
of
we
the
are.
day. We're all connected.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
In the good times and the bad times, we're all there.
Yes. And that's what makes life go around, right? So if you're lucky enough, we're all there together.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the humanity of
Experience.
all of us. Yes.
That's right.
Barbara, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time.
This
It was a
wonderful.
pleasure.
For me as well. And hopefully we'll see each other soon. So thank you again for having me. It really was a very special time and I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. We will link your book in the description of the
Thank you.
episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be well.
Our listeners, thank you for listening. For more conversations and more guests, please subscribe and follow us. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.